What's going on, guys? Delta 6. Thank you for joining us on another video. So this video, guys, is another true story, and it's been going on since 9/21, so the 21st up until tonight even. It started out with older male in his 50s who was in an Uber vehicle, and I noticed that he was on property for a really long time. I mean, I thought he was there for 3 hours or 4 hours. So I pulled my truck, blocked him off, got out, and spoke with the guy. And this guy said, that he knows he's been on property for a long time, that, he's been there since 10 a.m. So this guy has been on property for over 12 hours sitting in his car, right, just parked up at one of the buildings. And this was our first interaction with this guy. His story is that he dropped off a young female that morning, and he's been here ever since. And he's been waiting on her because they like each other, all from a 20-minute Uber drive. And he's gonna get laid and all this other stuff. And I mean, what's even more crazy is that he said this is a young female, right? And I was like, well, what do you mean she's young? And he's like, oh no, she's of age for sure, I know that. I'm like, okay, because she told you? He's like, yeah, she told me. I'm like, okay. I was like, do you have proof that you've been messaging this person that lives on property? He's like, yeah, you can see all the messages here. I'm actually texting her right now. And as soon as he said that and started opening up his phone, a text came in. It was like, I'm sorry you've been waiting long, but I don't want my mom to get upset. I'm waiting for her to go to bed. So that told me that maybe this girl is a minor. And if she's worried about what her mother thinks, as an adult, there's seriously something wrong with this chick. But nonetheless, guys, I am not kidding. Like, the messages kept coming in that she doesn't want to make her mother mad. And I'm like, well, I need to know what apartment she's at. You can tell her to come over here, come outside, whatever the case is. Tell the girl to tell her mother that she's on the phone call real quick and she'll be right back in. That it's work or something. You know what I mean? This girl would not come out. And more messages kept coming in on the text saying that she doesn't want to get him in trouble and she doesn't want to get in trouble. So it's real shady, guys. You know what I mean? The story is that the mother is a registered nurse in her 70s. And I said, okay, well, I know who that is. You're parked right in front of her building, so you got the right place. But, it just still seemed kind of odd, you know what I mean? So I hung around for about 2 hours. And finally, I was like, you know what? I gotta call SPD. They're gonna verbally trespass you, right? You're not going to jail, whatever the case is. So SPD comes out about 45 minutes later, because I called non-emergency, and they gave him a verbal warning. And even the officers that came out were like, yeah, this guy, he's definitely up to something bad, man. Like, he's definitely a creeper, man. So keep an eye out for him. So it was, I believe, maybe a week and a half later, I'm talking to my officer that's on the property. And I was like, hey, look, I came across this guy. I forgot to inform you about him, but keep an eye out for him. And he's like, oh, you know what? I seen that dude. And I'm like, okay, well, if you see him again, call SPD, non-emergency, and get this guy trespassed on paper. So sure as crap, man, this guy come out about 45 minutes later, shows up, and he's parked up, and my guy sees him. So he does that. We get him trespassed. Same kind of story, you know what I mean? Same exact story as what he gave me is what he gave my officer and the other officers. And we thought that would be the end of it, right? We got him trespassed for good, and he knows if he comes back on the property that he's going to jail. He's got a felony at that point because he's been warned. He signed the paper. That's a felony, right? So here we are, the next day after he gets trespassed, guys, and that's today when I'm posting this video on the 8th. I see this car, as I'm driving in between the properties, and the properties, guys, one apartment is across the street from another, but it's a good distance, so there's multiple ways to get to them. So I started doing my patrols. I noticed this guy pulls up in a car, but I didn't see who it was, because it was on the main street. You know what I mean? It was on one of the streets behind our complex, parked up by an actual residential house. So I didn't think nothing of it. I thought maybe it's delivery or someone visiting or whatever the case may be. And I keep driving around, and about 45 minutes later to an hour, I noticed, damn, that car is still there. So I drove through a couple times, came back around, and all those times I drove through, I was looking to see who this guy was, right? And sure as crap, the guy turns his head towards the buildings where I'm patrolling at the right time, and it is the same creepy looking guy with glasses that can see into the future. I am not kidding when I tell you that. Them glasses are massive, guys, like huge. They cover up it like his whole dang on face. So I'm like, holy crap, this dude is like seriously parked up across the street now, and he's watching the buildings in the back where he was parked up at. So automatically, guys, my radar's going off. I don't know whether he's going after a young girl or he's going after the old elderly nurse, and she's in her 70s, but you know what I mean? Elderly people get targeted just as much as anyone else. And sometimes guys are weird like that, man. They go after them old ladies to get inside their apartment, lock the door. They do what the hell they want. They kill them. They take all their money. They take all their belongings, and then they leave and disappear, right? And next minute, you find a body, a week, months later. So, with how creepy everything's been, I called SPD non-emergency again. This will be the third time. And, finally they show up. I come outside the back gate, back up the one officer that arrived. Another officer arrived about maybe 15, 20 seconds later. And there's nothing they can do, obviously, because he's not on property. But they did go hard at this guy. I mean, they were cursing at him. Was like, dude, you're fucking weird, man. Like, you need to leave. You need to get the hell out of here, because this shit, like, you do not need to be here. If I catch you here again, you're gonna have some problems. We're gonna write you tickets. We're gonna do whatever we can to get you away from this property and away from this area. Unless you're working, you don't need to be around this area at all, posted up for over an hour, parked up on the side street. You're impeding traffic from getting by. They're swerving around you. Like, you need to figure out what's wrong with you and get gone. So, after that, I talked to the officers, and we're just going to continue to keep an eye out. So that's 3 reports, a trespass, 2 reports on SPD. Or actually, no, there'd be 3 reports on SPD as well as us. So we're building this case on this guy, and I am praying to my God Almighty that this guy shows up and just happens to be dumb enough to come on the property, because I guarantee you it is going to feel so amazing when I pick cuffs on this guy. And if he gets hostile in any way, then, he's going to get the taser, man. And it's going to be good. So hopefully he does, man. I'll bring some good footage. If not, it'll just be another true story for now. But like I said, guys, we're going to continue doing some investigations, try to find out who he's looking after on this property, or who he's actually talking to on this property, because he definitely was talking to somebody. My understanding is that when my officer trespassed him with SPD, the second call, he was saying that the girl is getting kicked out of where she lives. Her mom's kicking her out. So automatically, guys, that tells me, like mama's tired of her daughter's crap and is kicking her to the curb and saying, you better learn how to be an adult. And that is another reason why I feel like this girl is a minor. But nonetheless, you know, I'm still looking out after the elderly lady who's a nurse, because I caught up with her after we had trespassed him the first time. About an hour later, I caught up with her because she was pulling up, and she's like, you know, what was going on? You know, I see that guy here all the time. And I'm like, you know, you sure it's the same guy? And she's like, yeah. So this guy's been coming here before, and we just didn't notice him at the time because we have a really large property, guys. It's like a whole little town in here, right? But she goes, yeah, you know, I'm a registered nurse, and I do the late shift, and I'm in my 70s, and you know, I come out at night, and this dude's been here when you guys aren't on property because it's not your scheduled shift time. And then it just clicked. I'm like, do you have a daughter? And she's like, no, I don't have a daughter. So once again, like, everything being a coincidence, guys, it is just shady as hell. So let me know what you guys think about this story, guys. Let me know how you would feel about it if you get, you know, your hair standing up, whatever the case is. I mean, just let me know what you think. And you know, hell, even throw in some comments about if you think he's gonna show up on property and whether he's gonna go peacefully or get tased. So let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear from you guys. But until next time, guys, be safe and God bless.